Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Ham Radio Dude. Today I want to show you how I got the Yaesu FTDX10 to work with WSJTX so I could do things like FT8. And before we get started, I understand that everybody hates FT8 and it's the worst mode in the world, blah, blah, blah. But you got to understand here, I got this radio and I'm doing as much documentation as I can on the radio. So this is one of the things that I'm doing to document the radio. I will have a video a day out until I have this thing well documented, or a video almost every day. And so if there's something you'd like to see, just leave a kind comment below. But please understand, I'm one person and there's a lot to cover on this radio. It's a great radio, but there's a lot to cover. And without any further ado, let's jump into things.
Ham Radio Dude.
All right, so here we are on the Yaesu FTDX10. And I'm just going to go through the settings. I'm not going to show you how to get to them. I think you could figure that out. And if you can't and you need a little bit further assistance, just let me know. Also, if you start to see some settings that could be tweaked for more optimal performance, definitely let me know. But you're also letting the ham radio community know when you leave a comment in my page. So here we go. I'm on data U mode. And I have my room filter set to 3 kilohertz and my automatic gain control set to off. Additionally, I have my shift set to 700. I did have that set to 1000, but somebody online suggested that 700 was better performance for the FTDX10. And so I set it to 700 and I'll see how that goes. Additionally, I set my width to 3000, as you can see here. I don't have any filtering on like DNR or DNF. But if I go into radio settings by going to function and radio settings, under the mode PSK data, there's a few things that I changed in here. I have RPTT select set to RTS. Now, I have actually seen some people set it to something else, DAKY, but RTS is seeming to work for me. My RPORT Gain, this might be different for you because this is going to be your ALC level. So I have mine set to 6 and my ALC doesn't really move. And I'll show you that in just a moment. Rear select is set to USB. My data mod source is set to rear. I set my data out level to 10, and then I disabled my high cut and my low cut frequencies. And the reason I did that is it seemed like with those enabled, the tone of my signal from FT8, the tone was becoming compromised, and it didn't seem like I was getting all my FT8 signals. So I did disable those two things. My data shift was at 1500 hertz, but I set it to 0 hertz. And I believe that's about everything in this menu that I changed, yes. So then if I go back here, and from here, I'm going to go ahead and click on operation setting. And under the general on operation setting, I set the cat rate to 38,400 bits per second. You will see that the 232C rate is also 38.4, but we don't have anything plugged into the 232 port, so we shouldn't really even have to consider that, but I did change it anyway. So the cat rate 38.4, and then the cat RTS is on. There's nothing really else in this menu that I needed to adjust, but what I did do is I went to back, and then I went to display settings, and I changed my call sign under display, my call. And the reason I did this was because I did read some articles saying that that may make a difference communicating with WSJTX. Now, I don't know how true that is, but I changed it in good practice anyway. And so the next step was to go into WSJTX and make some changes in there. And again, this isn't a complete documentation on how to get everything up 100% running step by step. I'm making some assumptions here that you're kind of familiar with a few things, but let's go ahead and move over to WSJTX here. And I'm going to go into the settings. And here's what I have under settings under radio tab. I use the Yaesu FTDX101D rig. My COM port and your COM port will be different, but you'll see here I set the baud rate to 38.4, just what I set it to in the radio. And I actually went into the Windows Device Manager and I set it there as well. Data bits 8, stop bits 2, handshake none. And this is something new. The FT991, I don't recall needing this, but I had to force the control lines to high for both DTR and RTS. The push to talk method is cat. And then I have the mode set to data packet and the split operation set to none. I'm going to come back to the screen in just a second, but then I do want to show you my audio settings too. So my audio settings for input and output are both USB audio codec. And you'll see that I can only select line for this one, and I can't select speakers. So the computer knows that this is a input and this is an output, but the key here is your USB audio codec. So I set those and then going back over here to radio, if I click test cat, you'll see nothing happens. And it's like, well, what's going on? It just seems like it takes just a little bit longer than typical. So I tested the cat, that worked. And then I test the push to talk, and that appeared to work as well. So I mentioned the RT port setting was set at 6, and I mentioned the ALC levels, and I had read that online. But another thing you could do once you get that RT level set in the radio is you could adjust your sound card settings as well, which I'm going to show you. The output of the sound card setting is the output from the computer. So that's the computer going to the radio. How much or what level the audio volume is set at. So I found that setting my volume, and yours is going to be different, but I found that in the Windows sound card settings, setting my volume to 17 here for speakers, USB audio codec output, and having my settings as I do in the radio, I don't have any ALC, but I still have full power that I need on WSJTX. I mentioned just now that we could change our output, and that's the amount of noise or the level of noise going to the radio. So we don't want to overdrive it to the radio, of course, but we also don't want to overdrive it into the computer. And that's where this next spot is right here, input. And when you go to choose your input device, there's line USB. That's what mine is on Windows computer. And I'm going to click device properties. You're going to see that I'm set to 15. But what happens when I slide this bar? Watch the lower left-hand side here. Right now you see I'm at about 54 dB. And if I were to adjust this higher, it would go in the red. Now, that's not a good thing. You do not want to overmodulate the signal into your computer as well, because then the computer is going to have a hard time decoding it. So I think they say that you need to be somewhere around 40 to 60. And I just found a level here that was in between where I'm not going to overmodulate. And I'll keep an eye on this as the day goes on, and I'll see if any signals put me into the red or if they put me too low, below 40. But that is important to make sure that you have that adjusted as well for the most proper or the most accurate amount of decoding and encoding that you would do. And so real quickly, I just wanted to show you what I was talking about with the ALC levels and the audio settings on your computer. If I jump into here right now, I actually just set my sound card settings to 21. And I went into the radio and I moved over to the ALC on the meter. And what I'm going to do is, let me go ahead and show you here. Now, if I key up, my ALC level right now is at 0, so that's a good thing. But I need to check my power, and it should be around 20 watts. And as you can see right there, it's just about 20 watts. So that's how I knew I had it right. But if I were to go back into here, and I'm only going to do this for a second. If you don't like it, I apologize. But I want to show you an example of what a moving ALC looks like. And let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and just adjust this, and then I'm going to adjust this up a little bit. And you can see it moves up there. That's no good. So we want to bring it down so it's just at 0 still. And we still have power. So now you can see I only have 10 watts. So there's a happy medium in there. So right about 20, 21 for me was good, where I still have 21 watts. And then I have my ALC is still at 0. So I just wanted to show you that. So you got to tweak those settings, but make sure your ALC is at 0 or as close to 0 as possible. So guys, appreciate you checking everything out. That's what I did to get my Yaesu FTDX10 and WSJTX up and operational. Again, I mentioned earlier, if you see any settings that you think need tweaking so you could have a more optimal performance with WSJTX, let me know in the comments below. And I do apologize about any audio settings or audio issues that you were hearing during the recording. I know that my audio levels were low. I'll work on getting that fixed for the next time. It was just a setting within my computer. So anyway, I'm Ham Radio Dude, and we'll see you tomorrow with another Yaesu FTDX10 video. I don't know on what yet, but let me know in the comments below what you want to see. I'm Ham Radio Dude 73.